Okay, so hi everyone, welcome on board. Welcome to CATKing. This is Anisha here, and I'm back with another YouTube live with this amazing two people for you. Today we are going to meet Muskan and Nidhi, both of them. We have Muskan here from IIM Raipur and Nidhi from IIM Trichy. So welcome on board everyone. A quick check on the chat if you guys can hear us. Just write in a quick hi on the chat and put us hit the like button as well. So let's get started. Okay, so firstly, happy Women's Day to each one of you guys and welcome on board. We'll be having a great discussion today with Nidhi and Muskan, and the objective of this discussion till the end, make sure you guys stay glued, is one, how to prepare for interviews for freshers and work ex people. And then very, very important, once you convert so many colleges, how do you select which college you want to go into? Like all the cap call getters, this is going to be really amazing for you to know right till the end which IIM to select and why, and how do you make the most of the first year. Both of them have just completed the first year, rather exams, and soon they will be completing and getting into the summer placements zone. I'm sure you guys, this same time, if I refer to last year, even you were sitting for interviews?
Yes.
कैसा लग रहा है कि last year आप वो side पे थे, interviews preparation, and now on this side?
Thank God it's over.
So tell us your entire experience. Like Nidhi, you are a fresher, and you were sitting for these interviews right after graduation. How anxious were you, and what was the whole preparation journey like for you for the IIM interviews?
Okay, so to give like a little background, I'm a commerce student. Commerce students are inherently, I would say, we get away with doing nothing in college. Absolutely nothing. So actually, putting effort into interviews and having never given an interview before, it was a little tough situation. I was not sure what were the things that I was supposed to highlight, what were the things that I would rather not speak about, as in put myself in unnecessary holes. So that took a little while to sort of gauge my own strengths in an interview. I know I'm better at a stress interview now after having gone through so many interviews, because I know I can keep calm and I'm better at those kind of interviews. So I think just figuring out your strengths sort of helps you a lot along the way.
Lovely. That's a good perspective. Before we go to Muskan, all the people who are listening to us on the chat, mention how many of you guys are preparing for interviews. Just mention which calls you have, whether you have cap calls and IIM Ahmedabad, Calcutta, Shillong, NMIMS, which calls do you guys have? And those preparing for next year's CAT, write in CAT 22, CAT 22. We'll make sure we get in the most from this session, from these two beautiful women out here, so that you get inspired for yourself as well. Okay, I can see a few of these people coming in. Great. So till the time we are also getting in most people responding to us on this, Muskan, how about your profile? Like Nidhi is a fresher from commerce stream. What about you?
So ma'am, I'm also from commerce stream, and post my graduation, I was working with one of the private banks in India in a finance role, of course. So my the biggest glitch that I had was I had to switch my profile from finance to HR. So I had this question a lot, that why do you want to switch it? What do you realize? So we had to come up with a story and then tell it during the interview and make them actually connect with that story. So that was one thing. Then apart from that, I used to be bombarded with a lot of finance questions because of my background. So studying it all over again after the work ex of an year, that was a little stressing out for me. But then it went smooth.
Lovely. Both of you guys, when we were given for the interviews, कभी कोई ऐसा interview था where you felt like कि यार this is biased. I'm being asked these questions. I mean, I was asked in one of my questions कि you shouldn't do an MBA. तुम्हें तो शादी करनी चाहिए अभी हो गया 2 साल काम कर लिए. So did you guys get any of these questions in your interviews, or any of your relatives or family ever spoke to you from that context?
Those questions sort of always arise if they're not directly said. they're implied very often. I have had 2 interviews like that. One where I was asked, that I've always said that I wanted to be in finance from the very first interview, and they said, "You think, as a woman in finance, you'll be able to do as well as the men openly?" And my CAP interview itself revolved around how men and women are not equal. The whole interview revolved around that, and I had to prove to the panelists that that's not true. And they were throwing all these facts at me from these random studies, and obviously I had never prepared on that topic at all. So I had to sort of just all these years that I've been telling other people, family members, that I can do it, other women can do it. I had to go and put my points there very logically in that interview, and then I made it in CAP.
Lovely. So I think this is where you say that now you can handle stress interviews, being calm. Like the first thing that reaction comes is obviously going to be like, yaar, ye kya question hai? Main to dekh aayi na exam already. So you actually feel very angry at that point of time. So how do you control that in the interviews?
So generally in the interviews, you have to sort of take a step back and realize that most, as you can see, all IIMs are pushing their number of women that are coming in every year. So obviously these questions are just to sort of rile you up. So any question that they ask in the interviews that you feel a little uncomfortable with, they're only trying it to get under your nerves. So take a step back, take a moment, take a deep breath, and behind all the screaming that's going on in your head where you want to tell them to just shut up, you just have to sort of calm down and get down to the core points, why you believe in something and why you think that it's absolutely right. Say it very firmly. You don't have to agree with the interviewer at all times, especially when you know they're saying something wrong. You can disagree with them, but be very respectful and have your facts right when you do that.
Lovely. That's a very important point. Have your facts right and, do it respectfully. It's okay to say no and disapprove of some things and someone's opinion as long as you're able to justify yours, which is a very important thing. How about you, Muskan? Did you ever face any such challenges in your entire journey till now to reaching MBA?
So ma'am, I can remember 2 incidents that happened during my course of interviews. One was at one of the colleges where they asked me, they had a field immersion program, and they're like, you being a woman, would you be able to survive in a village? You have never lived in a village. So it was a 3 months program in one of the villages. So that was one, and I had to convince them that being a woman is not connected to this, and why would I be able to survive in that environment? And then second one was from my NGO background. So in my NGO, I told them that I did activities related to menstruation hygiene. So then they were like, okay, don't you think it's too women centric that you being the founder, you went ahead with this? Don't you think men also deserve something? So there I can relate with Nidhi where, you have to swallow your anger with those sounds, and then you have to just explain it to them in a very calm and composed manner that I honestly disagree with you. So that was one.
That's definitely there. So, immersion programs also are there. Like, for example, all the colleges also have different such programs, whether it's for NGO work or even in the internships. Do they still question that, do you think you can do field work?
Ma'am, in SIPs also, if there was a sales or marketing SIP, then they would put this question ahead that would you be okay with field work? But they would never put this question ahead in front of a male candidate.
Yeah. So that's some biases are still there. I mean, not everybody has changed, but we do have people proving it wrong. Like, for example, I have worked with a lot of sales women who are, in field work, and I'm sure each one of you guys have also seen that. So how do you train yourself, all through this journey? You mentioned you have to stay calm and you have to be very good. So when you are looking forward to applying to these colleges, and then you have to decide also which one to go, sometimes you don't have the right people to whose opinion should you take, because people can come back and tell you, yeah, chodo na, kya college choose kar rahe ho tum, job karo, yeah, whatever. So what do you think once you were done with your interviews, what was the next thing and how did you go about that decision?
Do you want to take this first?
No, go ahead.
So for me, the decision was, I always knew, of course, that I wanted to do finance. I did BMS finance, so it felt like the natural thing to me. So I was looking at it from that perspective. So there are 2 things. First, if you know your specialization, it becomes much easier for you to decide. But if you don't know your specialization, then becomes slightly tougher because you don't know what you're really looking for. And I went ahead and looked, beyond placements. As a fresher, I knew I would have a lot more job opportunities in the future. For me, what was important was to learn at this stage, so that even the people that come in with 2-3 years of work experience, I can be put on the same bar as them and compete for the same even final placement. So that was very important to me, that there was good training given and there was a good pedagogy. And my final confusion was between IIM Trichy and SEM HRD, and I finally picked IIM Trichy mainly because it had a finance focus.
Okay, that's lovely. Like, everybody talks about Trichy having a finance focus. What do you think makes it so special and better for finance?
So when our college was only 3 years old, we had our first CFA-RC team reach the national finals, and we've been continuing that legacy year on year. And this year as well, we've had national finalists come in from our college for the CFA-RC. We also had regional finals from the CFA ethics team. So overall, that culture has formed where the teachers, the finance teachers, put a lot of effort into teaching you finance. And over the years, all our alumni have been based in sort of that area. And so the teachers also are more comfortable in terms of teaching finance. And even if engineers come in, they understand finance just as well as the commerce students. So that is something that I think that IIM Trichy does very well in terms of finance. But as I mentioned before, our operations faculty is also amazing.
Lovely. So basically it's good for finance, but it's also good for the other programs also, is what you are suggesting. Okay, that's lovely. That's interesting. How about you, Muskan? Like, what all final options did you have in hand? Kaun se cap calls convert hue the, and what made you choose Raipur?
Ma'am, to be honest, all the cap calls were converted towards the end, waiting list and everything. So that I had all the options, but then with my work ex, I knew what I don't have to do. So finance was one thing that I knew that I don't have to go ahead with. So that is how I struck out Trichy for myself. So then I had plans for international exposure. And then if you see into the profile of IIM Raipur, so IIM Raipur is known for its international MOUs that it has with different colleges and its international relations program. So that was one of the biggest factor that prompted me to go ahead with IIM Raipur.
Okay, and when did you decide कि यार मुझे HR करना है? Like finance तो नहीं करना है पता था, but what made you shift कि अब मुझे HR करना है?
So ma'am, in my job while I was working, so it was a client facing role and I had to interact with a lot of HNIs in the city. So my clients used to appreciate me that you were good with business, but apart from that, we like talking to you. And then you get the feedback from your seniors that yes, you should go into people management and everything. And when you introspect a little about yourself, writing down the pros and cons of your own self, that is when you decided where actually you want to go. So that is how I zeroed down on HR.
Lovely. That's really interesting. How many of you guys who are listening to us, you're not sure which specialization do you want to go in for? Mention your specializations, or if you're confused, let's say marketing, finance, HR, let's have a little brainstorming with these girls. How do you decide which specialization? College ka to theek hai. We ruled out Trichy because finance nahi karna hai. How about the other IIMs? Where did you cut that off?
So ma'am, there was many colleges in CAP who had a little location disadvantages compared to the other colleges. And things being online, you have to consider everything, that what if it goes offline in the next year while I am there. So those were the factors, and there was ROI, there were placements, there was faculty. So one by one, every college was striking out, and then at the end I had IIM Raipur.
लवली. बहुत अच्छे से उसने बोला है कौन से स्ट्राइक आउट हुए फॉर लोकेशन या जो भी है, किसी के नाम नहीं लेने, ठीक है? यू हैव टू learn this art of subtly saying no to things, and this is what you have to do in your interviews as well, which is very important. And when you say you don't want to do finance, what made you be very sure कि finance नहीं करना है after studying and working in finance for so long?
So ma'am, what I studied during my BCom was very different from what I actually experienced in my work life. So there we had to design portfolios and come with beta, alpha, everything. And then you had to give out the risk analysis for everything. So that is when I decided that this number crunching and this much into numbers with Excel and everything. And when you have to explain those crunching that you have done to someone else, that becomes really different because you're not on the same mental level. You don't have the same thought process. So that was one of the key factors.
Okay, that's interesting. And we have Nidhi here who's that excited with all of that number crunching and finance, and that's her first bet. Amazing. So it's been so nice to catch up with you guys and talk about the interviews, the experiences. I'm sure the students who are listening to us right now have the same anxiety, and they're going through the same thing which you went through last year. So any tips and advice you would like to give these people while they are preparing for their interviews, and what should they do or not do in the first year of your MBA?
Muskan, take this first.
Okay, sure. So ma'am, if I talk about the interviews, the anxiety levels are really high. And what I learned after my interviews that this is not the end of the world. I mean, if you are confident enough for yourself, you're going to reach somewhere. And even if I'll take the worst case scenario that you're not able to make it to IIM, you go to some other tier B school. So, okay, your final starting salary would be a little low, but then it depends upon you, how you work, how you do it. So
Yeah.
MBA, getting the MBA college is not everything. You just have to prepare. You have to give your 100% there.
Love it. That's a very important advice, that no matter where you are, be it an IMA or any other college for that matter, you have to keep doing more things to be the best out there. Yes, Nidhi, your advice and parting tips to these people who are listening to us here.
So I'm sure that Anisha ma'am and Rahul sir is going to give you a lot of technical tips for interviews and everything. So I don't want to tell you that because they're better at that. But what I do want to say is, don't stress. I know it's easy for me to say and hard for you to do, but the more you put it into practice, the better it will be for you. I think the more you try and chase something, you are bound to make mistakes because you have so much to lose. I went into CAP interviews not even knowing about the colleges that were there in CAP or anything at all. I just sat for the interview because I was so sure I was going to, do something else. And then it just happened for me. And also that it's interviews are not the final thing. Getting into college is not the final thing. Now that I look back at interviews, I feel like the person that I was and the person that I have become is so much different now, and I'm such a more evolved version of myself. So focus more on the evolution that will happen along the way rather than the milestones that you're hitting. Think of yourself as how how you reacted to situations a few years back and how you do now, and how that is sort of going to evolve over the years as well.
Lovely. That's really amazing. So guys who are listening to us, hit the like button. And thanks a ton for both of these people to come and make time for us today on a weekdays in the middle of your schedules of college and all the exams. You have exams coming up next week, I know, and still you guys are here to give these people advice. That's really glad to have you here. One last question: in this entire journey, do you think the CATKing's YouTube channel or the courses or the mentors were helpful for you guys?
Yes, definitely. I think the YouTube channel the most out of everything, because it's very hard to keep your motivation high, especially when you see low scores or not as good of a feedback as you had expected, and then you come on the channel, and then both ma'am and sir are like, "Hi friends, let's start. Let's get on this. You have to do this." And you just put off the video, and then you're like, "Okay, now I have to sit down, study." Or I have to read this, and I really have to do it. So that motivation, that sort of, if you feel like that motivation doesn't come from your friends and family, or if that motivation does not come from within you, then that channel always helped me in those days.
Lovely. So that means, people who are listening, everyone has their down days. It's not going to be a joyride all throughout. You will have your ups and downs, and it's very important how well you bounce back, right? How about you, Muskan?
Ma'am, I remember that Rahul sir used to come online at 10:30 or 11 at night. And that was the time when demotivation hits you the most, when you're procrastinating things and everything. And then sir will come, "Arey, kaise ho, kya kar rahe ho, how is it going," and everything. And then after that live video, I used to sit down and I study again.
Wow.
When I'd actually packed up everything. So yes, CATKing has been of huge help with interviews, with motivation, with the CAT exam.
Lovely. That's so amazing. So people who are listening to us, stay glued, but stay glued right till the end, not just right now. The journey has just begun. Whether you're giving your interviews or you're deciding to take the CAT exam, the journey has just started, and there's a long way to go. just make sure you keep meeting with people, and thank you for coming and sharing your insights with us. I'm sure this is going to be very helpful for everybody who's going to listen to us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And once again, for people who are listening, wish you guys a happy Women's Day and stay tuned for a lot of more action.